Welcome to Plate Stack Chat. As always, it's me, Jason, some say CF Media, and every week I am joined by some wonderful guests for a chat around the virtual Plate Stack, and this week is no different, so let's meet our guests now. So our first guest is a former guest of the original Plate Stack Chat, a fantastic UK athlete who, when she is not working for the National Health Service, you will find her on the competition floor, most recently coming back from Wadapalooza, getting home safely, which is always a relief because there is genuine concern that she could burst into flames in the Miami sun. It is the one and only Nicole Crouch.
Hello again. Yeah, thank God it was raining in Miami this time round. I think I escaped
I
it.
think you were the only happy person. Like, oh, good, I'm
Yeah,
safe.
went on a holiday, brought the UK weather with me. Sorry about that.
It's all right. Now, we will talk about Miami again in a minute, but first, let's introduce our second guest because we are not alone. We are also joined by an incredible Canadian athlete. So it might be stereotypical, but it is no surprise that she has played pro hockey for 11 years. But that's not all. She's also competed at the CrossFit Games in 2019, 2021, and 2022. And then in 2023, quite literally had to show the elite athletes how it's done as part of the demo team. So please welcome the lovely Carolyne Prevost.
Hello.
Hello and welcome.
Thank you.
So, I mean, we kind of want to start asking about hockey straight away.
I want to know if it's ice hockey because Canada, it must be ice hockey.
Yes, it's ice hockey for sure. We grow up just skating in the outdoor rinks, basically.
So cool.
Nicole, did you play field hockey?
Like only kind of during school lessons. My mum used to play hockey. I used to go there on Saturdays and I used to help give the oranges out half time when I was particularly young. But no, I kind of escaped into netball in the end to play UK sport. But yeah, kind of never delved into the ice hockey arena, but watch it sometimes, and it's just next level.
Yeah, I've seen a few people doing it like locally here. I think in Bristol they've got like an ice hockey team, which it's one of those weird things that it just in the UK you just don't see it. It's so underground.
Yeah, I think my
Europeans have really good hockey teams, but not really in the England area.
Yeah, my old coach, Rob Manlove, he was a CM2 owner. He started doing ice hockey because I think his other half's Canadian, so kind of been back and forth. Obviously, kind of fell in love with the sport. But he used to like train at like 11 o'clock midnight hours. I don't know why that it was those kind of times, but that was common practice time for him. I always thought that was really crazy, but he loved it. It sounded really cool.
Because I think growing up here, like when you're very young, you think at least of my generation. So I might out myself here a bit, but I think when I first thought about hockey, I would have thought ice hockey, and that may or may not have been linked to the Mighty Ducks. Okay, so that so like ice hockey, right? Yeah, Coach Bombay, ice hockey, got it. And then as you kind of get older in hockey, like the idea of hockey, the immediate association in England is then like field hockey, which just doesn't
very different.
Doesn't look the same, does it? And then as you get older, you're like, oh, I understand that there's sports from all over the world that are doing different things, but there's something about ice hockey that it just kind of, I don't know. I guess it's because we can play American sports or like North American sports, kind of basketball. Like we can go out and just shoot a basketball, no problem. There's no barrier to entry for us in the UK for that. But we don't have that many ice rinks to just be like, let's just have a quick go at ice hockey.
Yeah, it's an expensive sport too. Like the equipment, the skates, the sticks now are super expensive. It's definitely not as accessible as some of these other sports that people can just pick up from around the world.
So what moved you from like hockey to CrossFit?
Well, I graduated in 2012. Now I'm outing myself with my age, from the University of Wisconsin in Madison. And at that point, I just graduated from D1 hockey, and I was a part of the program for like Hockey Canada, like on the national team. And I was not going to get picked to make the 2014 Olympics. Essentially, it was 2013 is when I basically started CrossFit. So And then I'm just kind of on my own for my workouts now. So I'm not receiving anymore my workouts from my strength and conditioning coaches at the university because I had graduated. And then once I didn't make the 2014 like Sochi games, then I'm like not really receiving the Hockey Canada program. So I'm just on my own. And then I was looking for something to do. I found a CrossFit gym in my hometown of Sarnia. And at that point, like I had a lot of experience with sports and some gymnastics growing up, and I always liked the fitness part. Every time we did fitness testing at hockey or soccer, any type of sport, like I enjoyed it. So it was just a natural transition into the sport of CrossFit. I wanted to compete essentially right away. And then just loved the unique aspect of it being different all the time. And what drew me in was you didn't have to specialize in something. You had to be good at endurance. You had to be good at weightlifting, gymnastics. And I grew up never specializing in a sport, like not even hockey. I've always played multiple sports throughout the year. It's like I grew up doing essentially 3 sports, like at the highest level. And then I would play school sports just for fun. So I never specialized. Even at school, I played soccer in the summer. And then, so I liked that idea of CrossFit. And then it felt like I was on a team again.
Right.
The community part. So yeah, that drew in, and then the rest is history. Continued.
Yeah. No. Nicole, what, I don't know if you, I don't know if we've ever spoken about this before, but were you like particularly sporty pre-CrossFit or?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I was competitive sporty. I've always like been involved in sports. So between my mum and my dad, they were, working in the fitness industry. So I'd kind of shadow my mum she taught like Les Mills classes. So I'd be at the front with her. I'd do Les Mills when I was like 13 years old. And then kind of just went through to university. So I studied at Loughborough and did sports science. So kind of the peak of sports science in Europe. So I was kind of in the heart of it. And I went during the years of the Olympics as well. So I've shown my age a little bit. And that was just an amazing experience because like all the elite teams were coming through, and it's just so inspiring. But never really kind of excelled in any particular team. I'm from Cornwall, so it's not like there's masses of coaching opportunities down there, and I just enjoyed it. It was more just enjoyment. And I think I fell into CrossFit. I was kind of in a bit of a rut with training where I was going to the gym. I was probably doing more like weight management, kind of, just ticking the box, bit of cardio, then some abs and press ups at the end. And I just got bored. And it was my roommate that made me watch Fittest on Earth, like such a cliche story, made me watch Fittest on Earth back in the day. And I was like, that looks epic. I want to try it, and did a drop in, and the rest is history. And I thought I was fit, I was convinced I was fit. And then I did I don't know what noises I was making during my trial at this class, but it taught me that I had a long way to go. And it was just, the start, I fell in love with it. I felt like Caroline said that the community was so strong. I felt that just walked through the door. So that was kind of the start of my journey. But I wouldn't say competitive before CrossFit. It was CrossFit really kind of brought that out on me. I just felt like this is my thing. My mum had her kind of Les Mills. That was hers. I think she wanted me to kind of follow in her steps. But
Les Mills?
It's like fitness classes, like
okay. That's what I thought.
Kind of led by an instructor, like all different styles from kind of mobility, body balance, and then like pump, which has weights and stuff. So it's kind of a mixed bag. They're in your kind of typical gyms, but just fell in love with CrossFit, and it's kind of like that's my thing. I want to see it through as much as I can.
So I love how when you start CrossFit, like no one ever feels like particularly fit, or that we always think. So I mean, the difference for me is that I didn't think I was particularly fit going into CrossFit anyway. I was already like just turning 30 when I started CrossFit, so it was sort of, and I hadn't really done any sports sort of growing up, and then it'd been 10 years I was living in Italy and not really even that consistent with the gym, and then so I was like, I don't expect to be super fit at CrossFit, but let's give it a go. And I remember when I started, Bex, who is going to be on the Bath team, actually, you will probably see her at Sit, or you will have seen her by the time this drops out, Nicole. She was very heavily pregnant with her first child at the time, and she was one of the coaches. And I just remember, like, she would do the class with us sometimes, when someone else is coaching, and just getting absolutely destroyed by this heavily pregnant woman. I thought, I don't expect to be like super fit, but the kind of the the idea of shouldn't you be resting and just, you know, taking it easy? You're pregnant and you're like coming here and just absolutely smashing these workouts. I was like, yeah, okay, I see what this thing can do. This is nice. But
It's just
Nicole,
humbling.
where did you say you were from originally?
Me?
Yeah.
Cornwall. I was born and raised in
Cornwall.
Cornwall.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. I heard Poole and I was like, oh, that's not far from me. And then I was
No,
like, oh,
Cornwall.
Cornwall. Okay, I see. You mentioned something else, which I think is interesting, because I know Caroline has talked about this quite a lot on, you know, in different platforms and that. You were saying like you did the kind of classic training and then a bit of abs and a bit of this. And I know, Caroline, you've talked a bit like when you kind of have made it to regionals initially and then obviously at the games, and that kind of idea of like what an athlete should look like and how you sort of maybe didn't, like when you got there, you were like, well, do I belong here? I don't look like everyone else. It's kind of, what was that experience like for you? And I'd love to know, Nicole, as well, like if you've ever experienced this sort of stuff within, because also when we talk about CrossFit not having like specialists, that also means you get such a diverse type of person doing CrossFit. So sort of that idea of like a standard look is kind of crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, like when I first started CrossFit, like I was just very, very athletic. And when I first did the open, there was no scale division. So this was back in, my first open was 2014. So they didn't introduce the scale division until later. So the open RX, we'll call it, was a lower barrier entry and lighter weights, everything. So when I got to regionals, like I just felt like I was like an athletic person within a field. And then I looked at everyone's bodies and I was like, oh wow, like I don't, like I looked athletic, but I didn't have as much volume in terms of muscle, especially upper body. Most of my sports were lower body. And like everyone takes off their shirt, and I didn't grow up in an environment in like my hockey training or anything that you take off your shirt. And so that was a very, very weird for me. I still don't take off my shirt. Like I don't have that like six pack, like those other competitors that I compete against have, but I just am more, I guess, athletic looking. So yeah, it's definitely weird because you compete, and I feel people are often looking at our bodies in our sport. It's a big component of our sport, I guess, is our bodies and what we're able to do with it. So that was definitely an adjustment. The thing I liked was that our sport was at least going towards a muscular and strong female body versus the ideal of, you know, the skinny girl type look that we're often told through media and social media and stuff like that. So I like that. But yeah,
I think like over the last year or two, I've tried to really push myself to get into those higher level competitions and really push myself against the best. And it's really made me respect actually not to judge a book by its covers. And that, you know, there's so many different body shapes and sizes at these competitions, and it's just so amazing to see what people can do with their bodies, and that's their focus. I think the judgment comes actually from outside of the athletic field. It's probably the kind of not spectators as such, but it's outside of our, I think all our athletes are kind of respectful of don't judge a book by its cover, and you know, wait to see what this person can do. And it's just incredible. I think it's not even the sense that you have to be big to be strong, because actually it's tiny women that are lifting ridiculous weights, and then there's some kind of I say bigger, but you know what I'm trying to say. On gymnastics, maybe that's a kind of hindrance. No, they're absolutely whirling around the bar. You think there's no perfect body shape when it comes to CrossFit, but actually you just kind of, you learn to make the most of your body and kind of your kind of ability. So I think probably back in the day when I was pre-CrossFit, I was definitely aiming for that kind of lean, skinny is the right way. That's the only way. And now I've actually got to the point where you know, maybe a six-pack isn't what we want. Actually, you need to have fuel. You need to be kind of powered to do these workouts. It's not always about being lean and, you know, kind of stripped of body fat. We all need that to perform. I think Laura Hobart's the best advocate at the moment. You know, the quote she gave at the games last year was just so powerful. You know, it's actually about what my body can do, and trying to achieve that. It's so cool. So it's really nice to see the change in kind of mindset for a lot of women in the sport in particular, and hopefully those involved beyond CrossFit as well.
Okay, I will say now that we had some technical issues, so just in case
We
I don't
might
make
still have it because I keep getting a thing 5 minutes, and I'm like, oh, I'm trying to get it through my phone, and it's not working on my phone.
So if people are listening to this and they're like, oh, a little bit of a choppy edit, Jason, well, there were some issues. But I think what we were saying before was about like the look, kind of looking at people and judging a book by its cover to a degree. And I think it's really tricky because on the one hand, we shouldn't, really, it shouldn't matter. But then at the other hand, as Caroline was saying, like within the sport, I mean, first of all, it's rare that you have a sport where people are judging you, like quite literally judging you on how you're moving. So they are looking very closely at your body for that. But then, as you were saying, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because you'll have, you are the machine, and therefore, when you're presented with a challenge, it's very easy for us to be like, this is going to favor a taller athlete. This is going to favor a heavier athlete. This is going to favor a lighter athlete. And so when the athlete that isn't the favored physique performs really well, like that's noticeable and that's noteworthy, and you want to mention it. But it's sort of, how do we strike this balance of being like, well, this is interesting because this is a high power athlete that we'd expect to do very well with a heavy barbell, but look how well they've done on this gymnastics workout. Like that's really incredible. I mean, I was thinking about it a moment ago, Caroline, because you were talking about the sports you've done and then starting CrossFit and kind of that, and I would think, okay, maybe even if you weren't necessarily using a barbell before, although you mentioned sort of strength and conditioning training that you were doing as part of your training, but like I've seen some of the stuff you've been posting up the last couple of days, a lot of gymnastic stuff, a lot of handstands, lots of kind of, you posted one up the day of recording, I think, where you're doing like a handstand and then you has like a backwards roll and then you jump up into a pistol, and I'm like, that's not what I expect a hockey player to be doing.
Well, I did gymnastics when I was really young, until from 3 years old until around 9. Then I quit, but there's still some stuff that I can do from those years. And when I first started CrossFit, I did so many things like handstand walks, and I would play. And I was just speaking with someone today at the gym, and it's like, the last like few years as I've qualified for the games in a different level, like my training used to be more, explore different things, go and do this, that. And I've kind of stopped doing some of the things that I used to do. I have videos of like when I first started CrossFit, some of the handstand stuff that I did, walking on my hands with the ab mats place. And that stuff is showing up now. And I did that 10 years ago, as like, I was just making this stuff up as I entered the sport and just was having fun. So I'm like, I should practice more of those skills that I used to do just for fun, and not lose those skills that you just start. If you don't do it, you just lose it, right? So I've been playing around a little bit more the last week, I guess, which is just fun.
Do you find when you approach your training in a bit more of a just fun sort of way, it's actually beneficial? Do you find like you train better, you train harder like that anyway, or do you need to be more kind of dialed in and focused on, no, today I've got to get through the boring stuff or the stuff I don't like doing?
I think it depends on the time of the year. I like both of them, but I like playing sports. I like doing different things. It can get not repetitive, but draining sometimes. Just going to the gym and doing your regular program. Although, like, if I have a short-term goal, I'm normally pretty good at being intrinsically motivated towards training and working towards getting ready for a certain competition. But if I don't have something near and it's like in a few months, then I need to play around with some stuff in training or go do a sport, because I just itch for those different types of things than CrossFit.
What about you, Nicole? And also, we need to ask what your plans are for this season, by the way, but we'll get to that in a minute.
No worries. I think, kind of a bit of both for me as well, in the sense of I like to always have a kind of next goal in mind, whether that's a competition or like a skill or like kind of making something. But I think juggling between work, training, and just having some form of a social life, and also a dog owner as well, that kind of throws the mix out of it. I respect that certain days are different. So some days I go to the gym and I've had to be on site at work and I'm just knackered. So I take the pressure off. And I just go for a conditioning workout or something. I kind of look at my week and I do cherry pick. My coach is always like, why have you done Sunday on Wednesday? And why are you doing Wednesday later? But for me, it's just about, in the chaos of juggling a lot of different hats, I just need to kind of attack when I can attack and then pull back when I need to, just to kind of keep myself at a kind of sane level. But I always do like to have a goal in mind, so it gives me that kind of pressure to kind of perform. I do notice kind of what Caroline says, like, let's say I have an event 12 weeks away, that's like kind of dream for me, because I can have a little bit of a start to ramp up, but then those last 6 weeks is like, right, let's really dial it in. And there's that kind of focus, there's that kind of attention to detail in the sessions. But again, it's just juggling many hats and kind of adapting as I need to adapt. But it's fun. I think you kind of balance between the two and respect the two. The highs become highs, and the lows, you know, you just kind of, it's just that day, move on, tomorrow's a new day. So
I'm the same way too, because I work full time as a teacher, and there's certain days where I finish work and I'm drained. So if I don't get to everything, like there's certain athletes that need to do every single thing on the program. And for me, it's just not realistic some days with how busy I am. And what, like, so I'll just do what I can. And then if I'm tired too, like, and I can't put in like 100% into what I'm about to do, I'm either going to do it another day during the week, or it's fine, I'll reset again the following day or next week. I'm going to hit that movement anyways. It's just kind of like listening to your body, and not overdoing it, and doing what you can with your schedule, with like busy schedules, right? And I think that's what's kept me healthy too throughout all the years of playing all the sports, is just listening to your body and balancing what you can do, and not trying to put everything on your plate at once, because it's just going to be too hard to juggle.
And then even there's like that mental component, because, you know, if you do that, you know, that, I mean, especially if it's like already a weakness or already something you need to work on, and then you attack it on a day when you're already kind of not overwhelmed, but it's just been a long day, you've had so much going, you're probably not going to do very well anyway. And now it's even more in your head the next time you're approaching it. It's like, oh yeah, and you know, last time these were in the workout, or last time I had these in training, it was a disaster, so it's not going to be any better this time. And you're sort of like digging this hole for yourself. But I do find it interesting, because as someone who just does the class, you know, I just go and I do the class, and quite often, again, you know, work schedule, family commitments, all of that. So half the week I train at 8 in the evening. And so it is after, you know, the full day of everything. And it's like, hey, I got in today. That's the win. So who cares what's on the whiteboard? I'm here. But then it is just what's on the whiteboard. And that's what I do.
But I think that's a really good point. Like, that's a win. Like, sometimes I do a workout and I'm starting the workout and I'm like, I'm just going to finish it. And that's a win. And like, I tell myself, I'm just going to do it at 75% intensity, and just finishing it is the win for the day. So having those little wins within your workout keeps you motivated, or just, you know, accomplishing certain things.
I agree. I think I used to be like in my program, like I'd get to the end of the week, and if I hadn't done something, I'd kind of like beat myself up about it. But then I started to respect that actually sometimes it's counterproductive to be pushing yourself through too many workouts and not really getting any benefit out of doing so. So it's kind of like, okay, that workout there in my, you know, week, I really want to attack that, because that's a weakness to me. That's something I want to work on, or, you know, there's a purpose to that one. So I'm going to make sure I'm fresh for that one. If I'm not fresh, I'll move it to another day. And yeah, sometimes it is just about listening to your body and saying, right, no, I'm not going to get it all done this week. Like, life's just not going to allow it. And it's just not worth me put myself into a hole that I'm not going to recover from next week to kind of benefit from. So I think I envy those that have the ability to complete all the week's training. I sit in hope, but it just, life never plans that way for me, much to my coach's amusement every week.
It is. So the thing I've been struggling with recently, well, I can hardly train at the moment. So anyone who's been following all the episodes of Plate Stack Chat and just heard me coughing along through all of them will know that I've been really rough for like the last 2 months. And it's been really interesting, because I went in one day when I was feeling, you know, a bit better, and I was like, I'm feeling a bit better. I came in, I went into the class and I was like, right, I'm feeling better, but I'm not 100%. And we had a workout, and it meant snatching every 20 seconds. So I was like, well, I'm going to go light first of all, and then I said, and I said to the coach, I was like, I think I'm going to snatch every 40 seconds. I'll just do half the work because I'm it's good that I'm here. And I did the first snatch in the workout, and I was like, oh, this is so light. So I might as well just do every 20 seconds. And so I did the workout with the every 20 seconds. And then there was a part B as well, did that. And I went home and I just sat at my kitchen table for like an hour. I was like, I can't breathe. I just could not get my breath. And so a couple of weeks passed, I just couldn't train. I was not because I'd done that workout, but just in general, I was so rough, I couldn't train. So when I finally felt well again, and I was like, I'm going back in, but I still can't breathe properly. I've been really struggling. What I did is I looked up the workout before going, and I wrote my scaling out at home. And then I went in going, this is my scaling. And no matter what, I'm not changing it. So if I feel better, like, in the warm up, if I'm like, well, actually, it feels okay. No, it doesn't matter. Like, I've really thought about this and I've written it down, and I had to go in and stick to that. And I did that. And when I finished, it was probably the first time in ages I was like, oh, I actually feel like I've got more energy now the workout's finished. Like, I actually feel better. Like, this was good, just moving, flushing out the system kind of thing. Whereas I'm terrible at that.
I think sometimes it's like kind of similar from an illness, but from a holiday or something, when you've been away and you haven't trained the same, the first day back, you're like, right, I'm going to attack this workout. But actually what you just need to do is move through the workout and get back into a routine, back into the rhythm of things. Because, I felt it like during December because I was conscious that Wodapalooza was on the rise. And so I wanted to come back first day and, get straight in and just attack every workout between the short time span that I had. But actually the first day or two, I just needed to remind myself that my body can do these things, not go 100% intensity, just 75, 80, and then kind of allow for it to kind of ramp up nearer the time. But I think we all do that after a holiday, or we'll feel guilty for having that time off and attack the first workout, and then we're full of DOMs for the rest of the week. But we're all kind of
I just try to prioritize like when because I program for myself, and but I'll look at like what do I need to do, and then what is okay if I don't get to do. And if it's just like one part, it's like, okay, I'm going to put everything I have in this workout. Because like you said, Nicole, sometimes it might be your weakest workout, right? And if you're not going to do it when you're fresh or whatever, you just move it to the side. It's like, okay, I'm just going to focus on this one, and then we'll see what happens after that. And it's like, if you don't get to do it, it's okay. Like we've had so much like volume accumulated over the years that like missing certain parts of your program is not the end of the world. It really is not. And like, I know that there's a lot of people that it takes a while for them to actually like know that. But as you get closer to a comp, then it's like trying to not do that, because mentally the confidence will just go higher. I think like for me, if I know that I've stuck a little bit more to it closer to a comp, but it's a little bit further away, it's like, it's fine.
Well, talking of like upcoming things, I mean, this is why I'm so annoyed that I've gotten ill and like haven't been able to train leading up to the Open, because last year I had a disastrous Open because I got like an inner ear thing just before or like a few months before, and it knocked out the balance mechanism. So I couldn't work, I couldn't drive, I couldn't do anything for like a couple of weeks, and then it got better. But like when you get like head rush when you stand up too fast and stuff like that, it was just like that all the time. If I just stood up very slowly, the room would start sort of spinning. And actually I felt a lot better just after the Open. So I did the Open and it was okay. I did much better than I thought. And actually the kind of going really hard like on a Friday and then pretty much taking the rest of the week off and then going really hard again on the Friday, I think helped a lot. But then this year I was like, okay, I hope the Open will go better. And then I've also planned this sort of like UK tour for the Open. So
nice.
I'm going to box in Wales. I think hopefully I'm going to Dragon CrossFit in Wales for like the first week. Then I'm up to CrossFit Glasgow in Scotland for the second week, and then I'll do it in England, CrossFit Bath for the third week. So I was like, oh, I've got this UK tour, go and sort of interview these different box owners and the communities and see what's going on. That'll be really great. And I was already a little bit like, when you do it in your own box, you kind of like, everybody knows me here. I feel quite comfortable to go and do the Open workout. And then when you're sort of traveling somewhere and you're a stranger and and you're doing the open workout, I was like, oh, it feels like there's a little bit of pressure there.
100%.
And now I'm
I found that.
ill as well. I'm like, oh, this is not a good look for me. But
Do you feel that there's added pressure because people also maybe recognize you from the Jason CF media?
well, I think if they do recognize me from this, then they should not have any expectations. They should know.
But do you put it on yourself because you're like, oh, I'm going to another gym that they don't know me, but they might know me, and I have to perform a certain way?
Yeah, I feel also a little bit of pressure. I feel comes from you representing your local box. So I think like I take a lot of pride in like not getting no reps during the open and like making sure that I'm moving very well, because that's how we've got one of the owners of CrossFit Bath, Ed Mason, like eagle eye Ed. If you're even just train in a workout, it's not the open, it's just a normal workout, you will be hearing any time that you're doing something that's not quite deep enough, or the knee's not touching the ground, or you'll hear it, you'll know. So we get drilled, standards are very high, even in the classes, all the time. And I feel like you want to take that to another box, right? You don't want them, you don't want them to feel like,
but that's a good
sloppy,
reputation that you want to
sloppy
have.
reps that you've got over there. So I feel like the pressure's on, right?
As long as it's to you and not the other members, can you imagine?
Like you want to have a good reputation of like moving well. Like if I know, like for me, if I go to another gym and I'm just like dropping in, I want to make sure that people see me moving and they're like, okay, she moves well. Like, because when you see someone moving a certain way, then you're like, I wonder how that, no wonder they do well in online workouts. And you start thinking about the type of athlete that they are and stuff. And it's like, I want to be able to go to a box. I move well. People see me doing stuff and they're like, okay, this is how it should be done.
Yeah. And I think as well, especially when you're a bit older, like it's good to move well. Like that's how you're kind of also protecting yourself to a degree, like doing things. I know I'm never going to be that elite level athlete, so at least the very least I can do is make sure that I'm moving properly and doing things correctly.
But that's longevity too.
Well, that's right? What I'm worried about.
The more that going full range of motion, like that's going to be good long term, versus if you stop doing those range of motions, like you just become stiffer, you're not moving as well, and things just start breaking down, I think.
Yeah. I've like certain things I'm terrible at, but I can sit in the bottom of a squat very well for all day, so that's fine.
It's so
and that's good for my kids.
Too.
Just drop down that. So that's the one thing I'm never worried about, somebody saying like, oh, you didn't go deep enough on a squat. I'm more worried about actually sitting down and hitting the floor than I am about not going deep enough. But speaking about the open, the season is fast upon us. What are you guys planning for this season? I mean, I think I can guess for Caroline. I think that's an easy guess. But going individual this year?
Going individual this year, yep. Last year individual, next year I'm master, so we'll see what happens next year. But yeah, I want to give it another good go individual for sure this year. If a team would arise, like it would be maybe next, like the following year, but I don't have time to travel towards any team. It would have to be locally in Toronto, just because I can't do that with work. But yeah, focusing on trying to get back to the games individually for sure, 100%. I was close last year. Very, very close.
Yeah, were you 14th? Is that right?
I was 14th, but I was 8 points from qualify. There was 20 points essentially from 14th to 8th.
Yeah.
It was extremely close within a group of us. It could have been like we all made one little mistake probably on a workout, which we probably all feel that like, oh, this goes this way. But yeah, it was very close that year.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the intrigue, because I think a lot of people obviously that, I'm going individual and my goal is to make it to the games. But when you've been before, there's like that added, it's not such a pipe dream. It's not like, oh, one day I'll make it to the games. You're like, no, I've been there, and I've been there more than once. So I know I'm a games caliber athlete, and I just need to, but like the changes as well with the,
it's
the,
almost
the
more like, I want to end it on my terms.
Yeah, nice.
I almost wanted last year, like to be, let's say, my last year individual. Had I made it, and I would have maybe gone team this year for fun and then go masters the following year. But it's like it got taken away from me. Well, I just didn't earn it, right?
Yeah.
Didn't qualify. So then it's like, I got to go try it again. If you don't make it like twice in a row and you're getting older, you're like, okay, maybe it's time to go team or something.
Yeah.
But I was
The
so
universe
close.
is telling you
So it's like try to get back one more time individual. Obviously, if I were to do very well at the games, then I'd have to reevaluate my goals and stuff the following year. But for right now, it's for sure trying to get back to the games.
Yeah. And I also think another sort of metric that's always interesting to look at is the fact that you were then on the demo team.
Mm-hmm.
Because like obviously if you make it to the, like, no, they don't choose who makes it to the games, right? It's like, these are the workouts, this is the procedure, you make it or you don't based on your performance. But the demo team is picked. So I always think that's very interesting to see who's getting
It was an honor.
picked. So and it looks like you're having a good time. I've seen you on some of the behind the scenes, and it looks like you're all having kind of a good time.
I haven't seen any of the behind the scenes yet. We'll get to that eventually. It's been busy.
Yeah.
School year right now.
Well, you're in it, so don't worry about it.
Yeah.
You saw it live.
Yeah, I saw
it.
Yeah. Now, Nicole, obviously, this is an interesting question for you because of last year. But any plans this year?
Oh, don't worry. I'm not battered and bruised to not go team again, but I am going individual at this current point in time. And yeah, kind of same to Caroline. Like, there hasn't been a team that's necessarily presented, and the one challenge I had with last year, other than the kind of the way the series that kind of followed, but was the traveling and the commitment to be in a certain place constantly. And what you were saying earlier about going around different boxes, I found it so intimidating going to a different box and training. So it's almost like eyes instantly on you as an outsider too, and especially probably the news of that team had broke at that point. So it was kind of like expectations were high, and you're in this kind of place where you don't really know a lot of people. I kind of knew a few, but even so, I just found that enormous pressure on my shoulders, which probably internally led. They were all lovely. There's no kind of external pressures other than probably internal. But yeah, it was definitely different. I'm kind of looking forward to this year. And I like to do the open on my own. Like, it sounds so sad, but I like to be kind of in my own little headphones, own little kind of box where before people have come for the 5 p.m. Friday Night Lights, like, just get it done, have a go. I don't necessarily kind of respond to that, shout and cheer. I don't know why, but I quite like doing it in my own kind of comfort. But yeah, individual this year. As far as it sounds, I think it's probably too late in the day to be thinking team at this point, just from the kind of work that goes into it anyway. So yeah, go individual and just see how far we get. I think it's hard in Europe this year with the numbers, but I'm going to give my all and be proud of my efforts.
Yeah,
and
the numbers they're hard, like top 40 for finals.
Hard.
Like, that's not like, people are like, oh, peaking for semifinals. I'm like, oh, hell no. Like, I'm not overlooking quarterfinals at all. You have one bad workout and you're done.
I'm really
interested. One major penalty and you could be done. Like, it's those top 40 is going to be very challenging for Europe, for North America, East, West. Like, it's hard. It's going to be a battle for sure just to make it to the semifinals.
I'm really interested to see how they structure the quarters because of the increase, like 25%, isn't it, that go through. Do they then make it accessible for that 25%, or do they keep that kind of higher skill level? Because then, that 25% might sign up and then not be able to do certain workouts. That's not a great experience for them. But then you make it too accessible, we kind of have that open situation from a few years ago where you had really strange names and unknown names at the top, and less so the kind of common CrossFitters. So I'm just really intrigued as to how they position the quarters this year, and whether they do kind of change the kind of ability level or kind of skill level probably at that point to accommodate for the increased kind of uptake. So we'll see. It'll be really interesting.
And they've moved it back quite a bit compared to before, because it was like 3 weeks of the open, one off, and then it was our quarterfinals, which felt almost like, the people that were moving on were those people that were more competitive, and it felt like the 5-week open almost, right? But yeah, with them moving it almost a month or something later for individuals, because I think the teams are actually
the teams go first this year, don't they?
Teams go first this year, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's interesting too, because it's a little bit closer to semifinals as well.
So it's interesting because a couple of things that you so I also think the 25% thing I find interesting, because I also feel that, so like I like a 3-week open. That's enough for me. I don't need 5 weeks. And I think if you ask, whenever it happens, there are people like, oh, I want 5 weeks. I wanted 3 weeks. To be honest, 4 weeks is probably the answer. But anyway, 5 weeks or 3 weeks. But I do wonder if it's about 25% of people that do the open that would like the 5 weeks. So you almost feel like, you've got obviously the elites that are going, that that have a chance. And it's also that thing of like, oh, it's 25, not 10. It's like, yeah, but come on, if you're not making top 10%, you're not moving on anyway. So your goal should still be to be getting into that top 10%, and then from there making sure you get into semifinals. And I think, but it's you're the second person very recently to say to me the similar thing, Nicole, about are they going to scale back the skill level and the weights or whatever at quarters, because you've got now from 10 to 25 that are going to be not necessarily able to handle the workout. Even if we're honest, like the 10 and 9% last year struggled with, it was probably only the top 8% that could kind of handle some of the workouts. So it will be interesting to see on that side of things. And also, Caroline, you're saying about like not discounting quarterfinals. So
I'm not.
Last week I had Alex Kazan and Maddie Harris on. So Maddie's gone to the games on a team from the UK before.
I know Maddie very well. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And so she's going individual this year and was saying, like, quarters. That's where you need to really think about what you're doing, because to make it into the semifinals now with the reduced numbers, that's the challenge. And then once you're at semis, that's a whole other game.
It's also even for the top of the top, it's positioning yourself to be on that first day of semifinals in that final heat.
Yeah.
You can't overlook the quarterfinals. There's so much at play with the quarterfinals and what that means for either moving on to the semifinals or when you're at the semifinals. Because, that first day, if you're in the last heat and there's only 6 workouts, let's say for the whole weekend, like those 2 workouts where you're not getting pushed as much with the top individuals, that can be the difference, at the end of the weekend.
Yeah. There's nothing worse than like a heat win. And then that's
the next heat wins and just crushes you.
Oh man, that is true. I mean, I noticed that even even just when I train on my own, when I train just in general. So quite often I'll do the 8 p.m. and then other times in the week I go into like 10:30 class, and depending on which class I'm in and which people are there, you'll notice sometimes you think like, oh, I'm doing really well in this workout, and then when I put like it on the whiteboard at the end, I'm like, oh, actually, compared to earlier classes, these times are terrible. But in your class,
I always worry when the 6 a.m.ers are like just getting the highest scores of the day. Like someone that does that at that time in the morning, worrying.
It's just a different mentality, isn't it? But I'm talking of the open. I think I'm very similar to you, Nicole, because traditionally, I do the open. I would go in at 10:30, which is like the quietest class in the day.
Yeah.
And I would do the open workout Friday morning, 10:30. And I'll be honest with you, there is a part of me that even now is thinking, with this UK tour that I'm doing, to start my day going in to CrossFit Bath, doing the open workout as I would normally do it in a quiet class, so that then I can go off and do Friday night lights at these other places and not actually have to worry about the workout portion, and I can be focused more on them doing the workout and interviewing the member who's doing it for the first time and the member who's doing it for the 10th time and the box owners and how they're bringing how they're raising the community up for the open and things like that. So I'm still on the fence about, do I just do a nice quiet open workout and have it done?
I think either do it right at the start or like do it before you go, I reckon. Like, I don't know, There's a few times last year when we did it as a team. Obviously, we had to go to BFG and we trained there a few times, and then had to do the open as part of the rules. And like, because of schedules, we'd have to do it on the Saturday, for example. And I got so much anxiety from just hearing people's experiences on the Friday. I'd rather just done it and had a little kind of practice run of it to know what was coming. So you just start to hear all the kind of experiences. You're like, oh God, it made me nervous. So I don't know, if you're doing all your interviews Thursday, I'd kind of get it done. And then you can relax into the evening, because there's nothing worse than standing around watching people suffer and then knowing that's your fate in
you still got to do
20
it,
minutes time.
Do you redo them? Do you redo the open ones?
Me or Nicole?
Yeah. Oh, do you want me to jump in? I will only repeat if I'm not fully happy with my performance, or I would like to try another strategy just to learn. I'll never redo it in the same way. I'll always like redo it and say, break the reps up a different way, or kind of not red line as quick as I do, or something like that. I don't repeat for the sake of repeating, but if I feel like I feel like in my gut, I can sometimes know, oh, you know what, I can do better than that, and I know I can do better than that, but by a good margin. If it was just to, you know, a few seconds or a few reps here or there, I'll probably just leave it. But sometimes I kind of like having another go just to learn from it, learn from the experience, and learn that was the right strategy or it wasn't. And kind of go from there.
I will never repeat an open workout. I've
You've never repeated one at all?
I've never repeated one. And I've often said, if I was like walking across the gym floor to the next, piece of equipment and I tripped on the chalk bucket, I still wouldn't repeat the workout. I would, like, it does not matter. I almost feel like they're lucky I'm doing it once. That's and I think I've made mistakes in open workouts that I'm like, I should have just done that differently. Like the one last year with the toaster bar, and I just foolishly, I just did too many toaster bar in the first set, and then I was like, why? I never would do that many in one go.
Oh, that's one.
Yeah, I should have just broken them up more. But too late now. It's done. I'm not doing it again. So, I mean, I've got no. I mean, I don't compete.
I was so lucky with that one.
Really? Why?
Yeah, well, I did it on the Friday night because I had to go up to BFG, and I had turf games the next day, so I had to do it on the Friday to allow myself. And it was ring muscle ups, not a particular strength of mine, and I wanted the option to repeat on the Sunday if I needed to. So I went up on the Friday and did it, and I was really disappointed actually. I was like, I think what you just said there, I did two bigger sets, so I was pretty fatigued by the time I got to the ring. So that was a lesson, and I wanted to repeat it on the Sunday and break up the reps. Then I fractured my foot at turf games on the Saturday, so I couldn't repeat it. Like my foot was like swollen, and then of course we had that pressure of the team. So going through the weeks, the next week came up, and it's like, oh, shuttle runs and burpees, wonderful, that's great on a fractured foot. But it was fine. I got through it. But yeah, I just I was so glad I had a kind of a go at it. At least I had a score to submit on the first one, because I don't think I would have had a chance to redo it on the Sunday or give it a first shot on a Sunday.
My first few years of the Open, I would always do them the Thursday night when they would get announced, like at 8 p.m. for our time. That's back now. They're announcing them earlier, and I would have to do them like the Thursday because my hockey team, let's say, it'd be playoff time every time during the Open. So I'd be having to travel maybe across Canada to somewhere else, and you're with the team, you have games. So I would do it, and I didn't know if you don't know if you can get injured, and then you can't do it on the Monday. So I'd always do it before, because I would get scared that if something happened like at hockey throughout the weekend, that it would affect that I wouldn't be able to do it, let's say on the Monday. But I would sometimes go to hockey on the Friday, and I'd be so sore from doing it super late at night the night before, and then having to go play hockey, which was not always the best, but had to be done.
Yeah, there's no time to see other people do it and sort of make a strategy off of what they've done, or you sort of see how they did it like that, and they ran into this trouble. It's like,
I need psych up time. I call it my psych up time.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, I like that we all clearly approach the Open very differently. spot the one who's not an athlete in the group. But like I won't even see. I don't even look at the Open as a competition, because I've said many times that I don't compete. And when I said I don't compete, like Ollie said, well, you do the Open every year. And I was like, well, that's a community event. That's not competing. That's me being part of the community. And then I've done a couple of, like, I did the triathlon thing that we had. That was horrendous. And I did one like local competition. But again, it wasn't a competition. It was a charity event. It was raising money for a charity. So I don't look at that as a competition. So I feel my record is still clear. I do not compete. I don't need to. No, we mentioned the team a couple of times, and I don't know if Caroline knows what happened. And I don't want to like rehash old things.
Honestly, it's fine. I have no bad feelings at all.
Because I also have a follow-up question about this. So I mean, you tell us what happened. You can say it, and then I'll ask you my follow-up question.
Yeah.
Just so Caroline, because Caroline might not know, and I feel bad that we keep mentioning the team and what happened with the team, and she's probably thinking, what happened with the team?
Yeah, I'm probably the one that's kind of more relaxed out of the team to say. So yeah, we had a team last year going towards, I think we managed to get towards semi-finals. Got our ticket. We were third in the UK. I can't remember the overall positioning, but we did well. I was in a team with myself, Janie Garrett, Will Kane, and then Zach George. So we were training, and all of us were putting in the time and effort to go up to BFG and
keep going.
Yeah. And then literally we were probably a few weeks out of Berlin, and we got this email saying you need to sign this NDA, and we're going on a call with Zach's manager, and you all need to be part of it. You have to sign this NDA. So in my stupid naive mind, I was like, oh my god, we got a deal. We've got a big deal coming our way. This is exciting. And I was on holiday as well at the time, so I was like, oh, I need to go away, I need to find private space. And then, we were on this call and got told that Zach had been auditioning and had accepted a position as a gladiator for BBC Gladiators, which is currently airing, isn't it? So it's all out there now. But the timing of the recordings clashed with semi-finals, and it was just it was the end of the journey, basically. And I think because we all signed up with the attitude that we were fully committed, we didn't need a sub, it's this team or no team. Yeah, it kind of came back to bite us in the butt a bit, I guess. But we just didn't know. We had no idea. We literally found out on that call, and it was just a little bit like, all right, well, Berlin's not happening, and this whole journey's kind of cut short. So there's a little bit of controversy on kind of the socials, but I get it from Zach's point of view. It's you don't make a lot of money from CrossFit. The kind of career is short, and this is an opportunity for him and his new family. Like, he's just had a little one, to have a secure income, potential, big brands to work with from that kind of exposure. It's kind of no brainer. I think he'll admit, I'm not kind of saying this that he wouldn't say himself, is he's kind of reaching that end of that competitive season for him. So it was that opportunity might not be there the next year, so why not take it there and then and go for it and see how far it goes. So that's the kind of team experience we had last year, but all on good terms with Zach, and obviously the other Janie and Will, there was no issue there anyway, but we're all good, quite tight. But just a shame. You live and you learn. On to next year.
Because sounds really wicked now, but the reason I ask is because it's airing currently as well. As you mentioned, like, it's like 3 episodes in. My son loves it. Like, he's
my god, I'm the most popular aunt now. Like, my nephews and nieces, they're like, I send them the picture of our team training and stuff. Like, oh my god! And obviously I know like Shelley with Krieger and Emily through the competition scene. So I'm like sharing all this. I'm the coolest person ever. Like, oh my god, you trained all, like, you're friends with these people. And I said it at work the other day, because I work in typically like an occupational health setting within the NHS. So kind of older women and kind of not in the competitive or fitness scene in any way, shape or form. And I showed them this picture, like, I watched him on Saturday night or whenever it gets aired. So it's kind of cool, like, that you know these people, and the kind of touch of fame, I guess, if you can call it fame, with the gladiators at the moment. So good on them. Why not? I saw that, Calm Porter's doing it the other side of the world as well. Like,
yeah,
it's not
Australian
just the UK.
gladiator. Yeah, no. I mean, CrossFit is like almost perfect for gladiators, aren't they? But we were watching it the other week, and I'd like put a picture and tagged like Zach in it, and then he's messaging me. So it's like my son's watching this and he's in love with this show, and then I'm like, oh look, this is Steele. He's talking to us. He's and then he starts coming and asking questions about all the other ones, and I'm like, I don't know the others. I know these three because they're in the CrossFit world. The rest of them, no idea. I've got nothing to do with them. But I just wondered if that, like, if you can enjoy gladiators, or if there's sort of this little oh no,
there's no bad. Life's too short for kind of bad blood like that. And as I say, I respect the decision, and I kind of understand opportunities don't come at times that we always want it. But no, we kind of ended that on a good note, and still fairly friendly. So no, I haven't watched it, but that's not from avoiding it. I just haven't had a chance to sit down and properly watch it. So maybe I need to catch up. I see it on Instagram and reels.
Yeah. Oh, you're too busy, Nicole. You're off to Miami, then you were at Sid Origins. You're just busy. And then the Open's
and
coming.
then they're the house away for a month. So I've got the dog to walk all the time. So just, if I'm not at the gym, I'm out walking the dog, and if I'm not out walking the dog, I'm sleeping.
Sounds like a good life. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. Somehow I knew there was going to be this little detail, but I think actually what you're saying is very reasonable, because I did do a video about it, and like the logic behind that is obviously he's had a kid. There's a lot of opportunities there, and CrossFit currently there's just not those opportunities. So it's a tough call to make. But
for the very, very, very top, there's opportunities. Oh yeah. And for the great majority of us, there's not.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, you've already said, like, you've been to the games 3 times, and then you're also saying, and I'm working full time, and I'm a teacher, and I'm doing this. So it's like, it's rare then you'd hear about another sport that people are at the top end of the sport, that they've competed at the biggest competition, and yet they're still also doing other stuff like full time and fully involved in all of that. But that's the nature of the sport at the moment, isn't it? So maybe in the future we'll see. But yeah, it is interesting. But you're right, there are those that can do very well from CrossFit. Not me, but there are other people that can do very well from CrossFit. Great. Well, it's been fun. I've let the recording run a little bit longer because of how many times we've had to cut in and out, and I don't know. Some of the actual recording clock doesn't tell me how long we've been speaking, but I'm going to guess this is probably around the time that we'd want to wrap it up. Thank you very much for joining me, Nicole. Thank you, Caroline, for persisting with the technical issues, but you kept coming back, and we appreciate that.
Sorry about all those reboots. It finally got to the reboot, and then I was like, okay, now it should be good.
Yeah, we should have just done that at the start.
I know, I should just let it reboot.
10 minutes later, we'll reboot the thing. Nicole and I will catch up, no problem. But if people want to follow your ongoing competitive season, Nicole, first of all, where can they find you and all the things you're doing?
Probably Instagram's the where I post the most. So what's it, at Crouchy_X.
It's on the screen in front of you, but you really have to think about it.
I was trying to play it really cool, so it's such a weird thing to say. But yeah, and I love interacting with people as well. I've met so many people now through Instagram and through the CrossFit community. It's really cool. So yeah, if anyone sends you a message, you'll expect a response back. So I like connecting with new people.
Wonderful, excellent. And Caroline, what about you? If people want to,
same thing, Instagram, cprevo27. I don't have the most amount of followers, so I will reply back to you. If you send me a DM.
Yeah, that's true, because you've replied back to me in the past, so that's how I know that.
I'll see it. I'm not someone that keeps all the unread for hundreds of unread stuff. I like reading and replying back to people.
It's good. And actually, I mean, that is one of the I do like that about CrossFit though as well, that because the sport is still, it might be that people that make it to the games aren't necessarily making a living off going to the games, but it does mean that at least at the moment, the majority are still part of the community and accessible, and you can say something to them and maybe get a response. And, and I do think that is a great thing. And I think actually things like Waterpalooza or Fit Fest that we had, they were so nice when you get those opportunities where you can really mingle with the elites in the sport, because it just gives it that kind of community feel that no doubt, as the sport progresses and becomes more professional and there becomes more of a divide, I do worry that we'll sort of see that slowly disappear. But for now, jump on Instagram, shoot Caroline a DM, ask any questions that you've got, and she'll still reply. She's still humble enough to answer your questions. Wonderful. And as always, I'll put in the description and the YouTube video and the show notes on the YouTube and the description on the podcast, or vice versa, however it works. There'll be links to their social medias and things like that. Thank you once again, Nicole. Thank you, Caroline, as well, for joining us around the plate stack. Thank you, everyone, for listening or watching. And you can, share it with a friend so that we can grow a little bit. That would be nice. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And we'll be back again next week with some more fantastic guests. So thank you once again, Nicole, Caroline, and we'll see you all next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye, guys.